Hi, I'm DJ Khalil. I'm a producer here from LA, hip hop producer, Aftermath staff producer. I've worked for Dr. Dre for 4 years now. I started off basically using hardware. I was using the ASR 10. I used that for 11 years, and it it got me to a certain point where I was doing records with G Unit. I did a record with Keith Murray, but I reached a turning point in my career where I had to change how I made music because I was having problems pulling up old beats, pulling up old sounds, stuff that I tweaked, you know what I mean, and I was having problems when I was tracking records and it didn't sound the same, you know what I mean. So I had to switch that up. And also another problem that I ran into was I was sampling. Like that's all I did was sample records. I have a collection over like 13,000 records, still have them. But as you know, if you're a producer, you don't make a lot of money in this business by sampling. You get hit for publishing, and you have to pay master fees and everything, master sync fees and everything. So there was a point where basically, I got tired of the ASR. I've exhausted everything out of that piece of equipment, and I basically, I needed a change. So I got a copy of Reason, and I put it on my laptop, and I literally shut down making beats for about 4 or 5 months. That's all I did was just make beats on my laptop. And after a while, after I started learning and how it worked, and it's a totally different way of making music, you know what I mean, at least making hip hop. But as soon as I made one beat that I really liked, as soon as I heard one joint that I was like, okay, this is, I can make something with this. And it was like, when I made that joint, I ended up selling it to a website or whatever, and the quality was better than the quality that I had with my ASR 10. So, at that point, my ASR's been collecting dust ever since. So, so I've been, I'm still learning from still learning about the program and the software. And, but I've been fortunate enough to get to a point where, as I started using the software, my production, my quality got so much better. The sound was so much bigger and warmer, and I could actually make the sounds that I've been dreaming of making. You know what I mean? And it got to a point where when I was sending records out to 50 Cent, I would send beats out to Game and all these the top artists in music. You know what I mean? In hip hop. The response I was getting was totally different than what I got with hardware. You know what I mean? Just because it was just the sound was just so much fatter, and I could experiment a lot more with it. So, so basically, as soon as I placed a record on 50 Cent's soundtrack for Get Rich or Die Trying, and it's weird how that went down because when I went to actually mix the record, after he accepted the record and he loved it and he recorded it, I went in with him and I tracked the beat in front of him on my laptop, and everybody in there was just bugging out like, how are you doing this? Like, where's your ASR 10? I was like, I don't use it anymore. So I tracked each sound, I exported everything, and they imported it, and they pulled it up on the big speakers, and everybody was just blown away. And then they were like, how are you making this on your laptop? You know what I mean? And I sat there for like 2 hours, and I showed everybody in the studio how I was making beats on even the engineers were like, how are you making it sound like that? Because, most people that started with Reason, they don't get the same hip-hop swing and all the things that you get with maybe an MP or ASR 10, but I was able to do that. So people were still trying to figure out how I was able to pull that off. So, so we mixed the record, and, that was my first time mixing with Reason, a big mix on an SSL, and the mix came out incredible. But I was still, I still wanted it to sound fatter. I still wanted to take it to another level. So I just kept learning the software, and I learned certain tricks and certain ways to make the record sound bigger, within the program. You know what I mean? So, after that, after placing that record, I placed the record on Jay-Z's Kingdom Come album. And what happened with that record is I gave it to Dr. Dre. Originally it was for Dr. Dre's album, which he has coming out probably next year, called Detox. And Dr. Dre loved the record, gave it to Jay-Z, and Jay-Z just went crazy. He was like, "This, I gotta have this record." He was already done. He was mastering his album at the time. He literally stopped the mastering of his record to put my track on there, which I made with this software. You know what I mean? And which is unheard of. You know, to be able to. All right, so far I have 50 Cent, now I have Jay-Z, and I had Dr. Dre basically saying like, "This sounds just as better than what you've done before." You know what I mean? So, that record, ended up coming out. And the weird thing about that record is I actually brought the session with me, and I'll pull it up right now. The beauty of with the software is it stopped me from sampling as much. So now I'm able to play and copy all the records. I can listen to a record, all the vinyl that I have, and I can listen to a record and actually copy what I'm hearing with the modules and everything and the effects in the program. So I've been able to do that and actually recreate the samples or make something totally original. So this is the actual Jay-Z session right here, and I'm gonna play it right now. Did everybody hear it? On this track, there's no samples. Everything is original music. And I actually took, we kind of created a sample, and I went and recycled and chopped it up. And this is the actual sample right here. And it's all original music, but it's all chopped up. It's all chopped up in the NNXT. And I use the Reason drum kits. I use everything to make this track. So that was the Jay-Z track that I did for the Kingdom Come album. And as you can see, it still has the same swing as an MP or any hardware you can use out there. You know what I mean? And I also did around the same time I did a record for Game's Doctor's Advocate album called the record was called The Shit, and I programmed all the drums and everything in Reason, but we replayed the sample and everything. So I used a combination of that and Pro Tools, but after that, I placed more records. I worked with Khalil on his album, on his latest record. I did 2 tracks on there, one featuring Music Soul Child, one featuring Sizzla. And then my most recent track that actually was a single, it still is a single for 50 Cent's Curtis album called Still Will Kill. And I made this beat like a while ago, like a long time ago, like almost a year and a half, 2 years. And it was really one of the first records that I did that had that big radio sound. You know what I mean? Like I've been trying to get a single forever, trying to get a record on the radio, and I finally got one. You know what I mean? And I actually, I did it using this program, and this was a beat that I made almost 2 years ago. You know what I'm saying? But I've actually mastered, how to mix within the program and make everything sound good and actually layering everything. You know what I mean? So when 50 heard this record, like 50 called my house, like, yo, he wanted to sign me to G Unit, as a producer. And at the time, I told him I'm signed to Dr. Dre. I can't do that. You know what I mean? You have to talk to Dr. Dre, but. After I gave him that record, he saw the potential of what I was doing. He asked me what I used, you know what I mean? I told him all the software that I use and everything, and he was just like impressed because he remembered the session that I did for his soundtrack. But he was in the room, you know, like he was in the room. His manager Shaw Money was in the room, and the A&R people, and they were all watching me, you know, export this track and actually tracking it on the spot. So, you know, so the fact that I'm just, you know, I'm getting, you know, this kind of response from the top, you know, people, they've worked with everybody from Timberland to Dr. Dre or whatever, and the fact that my stuff is on par, you know what I mean, and getting actual incredible results, you know what I mean, to where you can take it and actually get on the radio, you know what I mean? So this is the 50 Cent track that I did, and it's called Still Will Kill. This is the session. This is just a sound that I made in Reason. I created this whole patch. And the drums are layered. Like the kick is real heavy, a lot of reverb. Like it's just like, so when you hear it in the club or you hear it in your car, it's just banging. So that's the track on 50 Cent's Curtis album, featuring Akon. They have a video out for it and everything right now, and it's basically one of the, you know, biggest accomplishments for me as a producer. Coming from, I started as an underground producer, you know what I mean. I have a group called Self Scientific. We still put out independent records, and you know, my hand is still. I just recently did a record on Evidence. I don't know if you guys know who Dilated Peoples. You know, that group, I work with Ev on his record, you know, so my hands are in both the underground and the commercial realm, you know what I mean? But the fact that I've been able to touch both sides, you know what I mean, is pretty incredible, you know what I mean? And to actually bring a sound that's actually, you know, that can, you know, get on the radio, and then I can still, you know, maintain my underground roots, you know what I mean, with the program, and still make dirty, grimy, you know, sample beats, you know what I mean? Which I still do. So right now, you know, I'm working on Game's new record. I'm working. I did a single for Jim Jones. What else? Nas. I work with Nas, and I have a couple records that I want to play that I just, you know, started on. This is like exclusive, not even out yet, but this is for hopefully, you know, Nas's next record, which they're still working on right now.
Driving in a circle before I pulled up. Now I just go up. They know when I got it tucked. Tip the doorman. Racist neighbors flinching. They don't know if I'ma rob them or if I'm Russell Simmons. They thought it was me, just like Mike Bivens. They pray for my downfall like the mom of Robin Givens. Watching how you living. I just wanted to roll a BLUNT and watch BET. Picture A. Marie eating free. I'm trying to write hood movies like Posse and 5 Heartbeats. I'm all inside a dark room. My incense smoke took the form of a ghost, and it spoke. It said, Nas, you the best on both coasts. You so big, you should write the word slave on both sides of your beards like